In this video, we're going to explain how to swap out the air in your tyres as we progress from winter to spring. It's important to do this as the air in your tyres over autumn and winter is colder and therefore at a lower pressure. But over spring and summer, you'll need to fill your tyres with warmer air to balance the temperature inside and outside the tyre. Some people change their air 4 times a year with each season, but honestly, that's just over the top and unnecessary. Grouping the cold seasons of autumn and winter together, and then changing the air for spring and summer grouped together is totally fine, before repeating the process at the start of autumn again. There are also some drivers who use winter tyres. They remain flexible at lower temperatures. They normally get a garage or tyre specialist to swap the wheels for them, and so the winter air stays in the winter tyres and the summer air stays in the summer tyres, and they don't need to do the air swap process. As we're removing cold air, we need to make sure the valve is at the bottom of the wheel, as cold air sinks and warm air rises. Think of a hot air balloon. We need to ensure that as much cold air is pushed out as possible. If this was an air swap going from summer to winter, we would position the valve at the top to help the warm air rise. For this demonstration, we're using the rear wheel, and because we need the handbrake off to be able to rotate the wheel, we will leave the car in gear to stop it rolling. You could do this without lifting the car off the ground, but note that the weight of the car squashes the bottom of the tyre, forcing some of the cold air upwards. This means you don't get all of the cold air out. You'd also need to reposition the car for each tyre's air swap to ensure the valve is in the correct position. It's just much easier to lift the car and spin each wheel. It's also worth noting that you should do this air swap before midday, before the ambient temperature gets too warm. Once the car is lifted, we can remove the dust cap and use a small tool to press on the valve to let the cold air out. For demonstration purposes, we're using a cooking thermometer to show you the temperature of the cold air we're letting out. It's not the best video footage, as I only have 2 arms, but you can see the temperature is close to 0. Some people set up a fan to blow the cold air away in case it gets back in when you reinflate the tyre, but again, that's rather over the top and a little bit silly. You can see that the tyre pressure warning has activated to tell me the tyre is empty, and it's also triggered a message on the car's phone app. It's reading 1 psi. That's probably as close to 0 as we'll get. There are several ways to help this channel. Like this video, so that it gets shown to other people. Share it with your friends on social media to make sure that they see it. And most of all, subscribe to the channel to show your ongoing support and help me keep creating new content. So on to reinflating the tyre. Check your vehicle handbook to find out what pressure you need for your particular vehicle. We're using a 12-volt compressor to reinflate, but you could use a foot pump if you don't have a compressor. It's not recommended to do this on a garage forecourt for 2 reasons. Number 1, it takes a while to deflate and inflate 4 tyres, and people will probably get cross with you. But also, at petrol stations, the air is stored underground, which is cold. That's great for filling your tyres with winter air, but no good for summer. It just defeats the whole object of doing the air swap. We're running the engine to power the 12-volt compressor so as not to drain the car battery. So note we reapplied the handbrake and put the car in neutral before starting the engine. Now we're up to the recommended pressure, let's put the thermometer back on the valve to show you the temperature. Here's a before and after picture. We're now a little above 10 degrees Celsius. Finally, we give the wheel a spin to mix the air. Remember, we only deflated the tyre to 1 psi. Mixing the air in the tyre just distributes the last bit of cold air with the new warm air, so that you don't end up with a cold spot in your tyre, which could lead to premature wear and tear. Finally, let's replace the dust cap and we'll drop the car back down and simply repeat the process for the other wheels.